And we're back with another episode of Middle of the Res Road. And I'm here today with Charity Johnson, and she's going to tell us about STARBASE. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to give us some background information on who you are?
Sure. I'm the director of the STARBASE program here in Duluth. I've been doing this since we opened the program in 2017. And prior to that, I've spent my whole career in nonprofit work and fundraising. So
fundraising, how much fundraising goes into STARBASE?
Well, we are a nonprofit, so we do have the ability to raise funds in support of the program. We are also funded by the federal government, though. We are a federal program, and we're contracted to carry out the program here in the region. So we do raise funds primarily from businesses and foundations to help support the needs that our budget doesn't necessarily cover.
So when you talk federal program, is that like a canned curriculum that you guys get from the federal government, or is there some wiggle room on what you want to do?
Yeah, they provide us offerings which we can select from the curriculum, but then we can also do what we need to do to make it our own or to amplify the messaging of the activities. So whether that's, buying a really cool or unique piece of technology to enhance the student experience, we can do that to help make the activity resonate. For example, if we want to relate it to something going on in the community or the region where the students live, we can do that.
And, we were talking earlier before we went live, and I had asked this question because I always forget it. I always forget what the acronym stands for. So for people that may not know what STEM stands for, can you tell us?
Yeah, absolutely. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. Sometimes people put the A in there for STEAM, which incorporates the arts into STEM, which we do organically. A lot of what we do involves creativity and ways for the students to be artistic, if you will. It might not be just true like artwork necessarily, but they have creative freedom to do a lot of things to express who they are. So a lot of that is embedded in science and engineering that a lot of people don't even realize.
And with STEM, being a former educator, and I don't know if anyone can actually ever say that they're a former educator.
Right.
I don't know if it ever shuts off. Seriously, I think about it every single day. I wake up, I still feel like I'm an educator. I go to work, I still feel like I'm an educator. And I can see, because I've done some work in Duluth Public Schools as an integration specialist. So what we would do, one of the last big changes that we had made in Duluth was to push into the class with students. So I got to see how students worked with teachers, worked with their peers. But one of the classes that I liked pushing into was science class in Duluth East. And, thinking about STEM and thinking about everything thinking about how that's changed education. Can you tell us about some of the things how you see that STEM has improved education?
Yeah, and the way that STARBASE specifically, I feel, enhances or helps to improve the curriculum that our students experience in their own schools is we really take all of the math and science that they've learned or are learning, and we embed it and apply it into the activities or the lessons that the students are participating in. And then the students are the ones then carrying out the activities on their own. They are creating their own hypotheses, they're collecting their own data. We're really putting students in control of the activity or the lesson. So what they put in is what they're going to get out. And we relate it all to real world things that are happening, or we actually, the storyline that we have students follow throughout the course of the week they spend with us is manning a mission to Mars. So they might be learning about atmospheric conditions on Earth, but then how does that extrapolate to what atmospheric conditions might look like on Mars. And then that's where, again, we embed some math, and they might be comparing decimals and converting that to fractions and, different components of air and things like that. So I think that, the importance of STEM really brings all of those elements together and what really kind of binds it all together is that technology piece, which really helps because it's threaded throughout, engineering, it's in science, it's within math. So we kind of use those components, whether it's a temperature probe or it's CAD design, engineering software, or it's robotics. There's always a piece of technology that is featured in the activities that we do, which I think helps bring it all together for the kids.
Is the Mars thing now, that caught my ear. Is the Mars thing a huge thing in science right now because of Elon Musk, or is it just a thing that humans have always thought about leaving Earth?
A little bit of both. I think right now what NASA is working on and where the exploration is going is that the generation of students that we're serving right now are the adults, the humans that will be manning this mission. So, the NASA's looking at 10, 15, 20 years from now, and this generation of students is the one that will be engineering, the rocketry. They will be nutrition specialists, packaging the food. So I think, again, it's something tangible that while it's still really exciting to think about, and kind of far out in the future, the students really realize that it could be a reality, and they see themselves in those positions and dreaming about what that could look like for them maybe.
And when you take a look at all the sci-fi movies that I may have ever watched, when they're picking, is it a one-way mission right now? Would it be a one-way mission?
I guess that's a good question. I don't know that. I think
right now it's a one-way mission.
Yeah.
Right? There's no possibility of return because the fuel that it would require to go there.
That's true. Yeah, that's possible. So yeah, so when we think about it, we think about the humans that are going are going to have to establish a base, and how are they going to live? How are they going to eat? How are they going to work? And those are all the kind of the challenges that these students at STARBASE are trying to figure out. So
yeah, it's a huge thing. I mean, I follow it a little bit more than. I think we all follow it a little bit more because Elon Musk is constantly talking about it. But
yeah,
it's really interesting to think, especially coming from, I thought about it from a tribal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to ensure that the human species survives. It's in case of a, asteroid hitting Earth or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started thinking about it as, well, if we're going to go to Mars, I would at least want a couple Ojibwe people to go to Mars too, because in the event of an asteroid crashing into Earth, I would want, my group of people to live on.
Right, be represented. And
so thinking about how they're going to pick people and what they actually need. So I don't know, it's wild to think about everything that you would need on a mission to Mars. What kind of people, what kind of scientists, specific backgrounds. I mean, and no matter what, you're not taking everything that you would want because you have to narrow the selection down. So that's, I don't know, it's existential almost when you think about it.
yeah. And
I don't know. I think about it once in a while, and it makes me go back and forth. And I would hope that I hope as a group of people, especially tribal people, that STEM programs do enough work where we get to send some of our people to Mars to check it out and hopefully survive.
Yeah, I know one of the most, she's received a lot of press, and I wish I could remember her name, but there is an astronaut who is the first Native American descent astronaut, and a female, which is also really exciting.
That was within the last year, right?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, I was reading about that too. No, I like reading a lot, I don't know if it's because I'm I went to the University of Minnesota. So when you're saying research based and you got to come up with your own answers and you got to see your own research and prove what you're trying to prove, I get all of that. That's the minute you go into the University of Minnesota, you're like surrounded by researchers, and it was probably one of the best experiences that I ever had in a educational system.
Yeah, and it's unusual for fifth graders to get to experience that kind of application in science. So again, I think it shows them, in the future, whether they go to college or they go into another kind of pathway for career, is that they get that real world experience where most of us, you and I, didn't get to experience that until we got to college.
Yeah, I think, and what that must do to a kid's confidence to say, hey, I figured this out. I thought this would happen. This actually happened, or it did actually happen, and I got to prove that. And what that does to a kid's self-esteem.
Yeah,
I mean, it's huge.
It's monumental, actually. And we see every single week we have a new school, and every single week we see those aha moments with those students who, let's say back in a traditional classroom, they are very quiet, they don't engage, they don't feel, like they learn the same way everyone else does. And then at STARBASE, because we change that so dramatically, and they're in a completely different environment, and they're directing their own destiny, if you will, that we see so many students, so many kids just come out of their shells, and just their confidence level changes 180 degrees, and their teachers are sitting back just in awe of how engaged they are. And it's finding every student's strength and really pulling that out and letting them lead their own way. And we hope that confidence carries them through further in school, where they might pursue more math, or at least they have that confidence where it's like, I thought I was bad at math before, but I just realized I need to learn it in a different way. So, because a lot of kids don't learn, if they're not doing it hands-on, or if they're not figuring it out for themselves.
Yeah, education, I understand that and I agree with that 100%. When I was growing up, it was second grade. I was in second grade. I didn't think I was the best student ever. First grade was really hard on me. You're learning how to read, you're trying to put things together and trying to figure out math, and you're getting all these things thrown at you in every direction possible. So I got second grade. I don't think I did that well in first grade. Plus, I got yelled at for cheating. And then, in the real world, that's collaboration. So screw them teachers. But second grade, I think it was in the middle of winter when things completely changed for me in education, in my schooling. I failed my math test. One of my best friends, still friends with him to this day. I watch him on Facebook, and he's doing great things with his life. I failed my test. I asked the teacher, can I take it again? Because I just wanted to take it again. I did horrible. I probably got like 25%. She let me take it again. My best friend at the time, he tutored me to take it the second time, failed that one again. And at that time I was like, man, ready to give up and still wanting to do it a third time. And he talks me into doing it a third time. He said, here, we'll work through these problems, the ones that you didn't get, and we'll take it a third time. And something just clicked. And on that third time, I aced it.
Wow.
And that aha moment, what you're talking about, where education finally makes sense, or maybe the equations finally make sense. It took me 3 times. And after that, my life changed, because school is easy after that. By the time I was in 6th or 7th grade, I was testing in college level for math.
Wow. So
completely changed the way I look at math and reading and science and all of that. Science was still a struggle. Science was harder than math, but math, it just became easy after that. But then I realized what it took. It took me failing 2 times And on that third time I aced it. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that we celebrate at STARBASE is failure. We call what you did as that second grader perseverance. You might think you're not good at something, but you have to continue to try, and you're going to learn from what you failed on. And that's how you build new ideas, and that's how you ultimately gain that success. And that's one of the biggest things when students take a little survey at the end of their week at STARBASE. One of the biggest takeaways for them was STARBASE taught me that it was okay to fail, or not to be scared of failure, because so many kids now are scared if they are not good at something. They drop it immediately and they're just done with it. But I think it's that fear of failure.
I think adults too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's this, I don't know if it's our culture that maybe the stigma to failing, or how hard it is to fail, and those feelings that are attached to it that drive people to not want to do something ever again.
Yeah, and I think STARBASE changes that mindset for those students, is to really put it into perspective that you need to fail in order to learn and to grow and to get smarter, to gain that knowledge.
And how many schools are you working with and locally?
Yeah, well, in the region, our region is 500 square miles of the students that we serve. So about 2,800 students come through our school year program through September through May, and then another 300 we have a summer camp that we host for about 4 weeks in the summertime. So
where are you guys located?
We're located in Duluth on the 148th Fighter Wing, actually. So our installation is there, and we have 4 classrooms. So on any given week, we're serving, upwards of, 100 to 120 students. For example, we have East Grand Rapids here this week for their session. Next week, we'll have Cloquet. Our service areas all the way down to Hinckley, up through the Iron Range in the Duluth region, and all the way up to International Falls.
Is this like and then I know that other schools, they take on a STEM program, right? Some of them?
That they take on?
They take on doing their own STEM program?
A lot of them do, and I'm glad that a lot of schools or districts are investing in that. I'm thinking about some of the Iron Range schools, like Rock Ridge District. I know they've built an entire STEM lab up there. So a lot of schools are investing the time to do that, or investing in career pathway programs. Proctor's a school that I know does that, where if you want to go into the trades, there's classes you can take in high school to get that experience, or at least find out if you like it or not. So
what about tribal schools? Do you guys have tribal schools coming in?
Yes. The Fond du Lac Ojibwe School has been with us since almost the very beginning. I think they started coming in 2018. And just last year, Net Lake kind of tested us out and brought students down with one of their fellow close districts. And this year they're coming on their own. We're really excited that we've got those schools as part of our partner program.
Yeah, I think Fond du Lac, I might get cursed out for having this information wrong. I'm just kidding. But Fond du Lac did have a STEM program before, because it was, and maybe you guys had helped with it, but they were building an airplane at once.
Oh,
they
okay.
They were trying to build an airplane at once. I don't know. This was like 2016, 2017. Somewhere in there.
Yeah, so pre-pandemic. Yeah, and we opened our doors in November of 2017, and I think Fond du Lac started coming in 2018. I want to say. So I don't know if they're still carrying out their STEM program or where that's at right now. But
that's cool. So what kind of before I ask this question, how do schools or organizations reach out to you guys if they want to come and check it out?
Yeah, well, initially it was a lot of legwork on my part, just visiting with different districts and calling and having meetings in order to convince them to come to our program. And with a lot of the districts, it takes 1 hour, one visit to our program to see what the students are doing and how they're doing it to say, yep, we're in, we're coming.
So they get to do an observation.
Yeah, districts can call me up, or I get in contact with them. For example, I have a principal coming next week from Cromwell District. They're a district that's never come before to STARBASE, and she's going to come and observe the program, and we hope then that they'll join and become one of our regular program partners.
What about for parents? Do parents get to come and observe their
They
kids
can.
doing?
Yeah, a lot of schools bring parents as volunteers because it takes a lot to manage all of that activity and all that hands-on and technology. So a lot of schools bring parent volunteers and that's how a lot of the parents get to observe our program. Otherwise, they also get exposure to our program sometimes through the summer camps that we have.
And what kind of projects do the kids work on? During the week?
There's so many. During the course of the school year, they explore an energy component. So where they get to work with some Minnesota Power engineers. Occasionally, will get to come in and because we have so much wind energy, that's a part of what we have in our region here. The kids get to design a wind turbine blade, and then they get to test. We 3D print it in house, and then they get to test it at the end of the year or at the end of their session. So there's that component of it. We have a molecules exploration where they actually do molecule modeling. A lot of robotics. So they are doing rover coding and asking their rover to manipulate certain pathways for their challenge. They explore atmosphere and atmospheric conditions. They explore inertia, concepts of inertia. We have an activity that's we always say it's an oldie but a goodie, but it's basically it's called Mars Lander, and they take a space shuttle, a Mars shuttle, and they have an astronaut that they have to keep safe from inertia. So they're actually going to be landing it on Mars. And so they use materials research to pick out their materials to restrain their astronaut to keep them safe on impact or when they land on Mars. So they're learning budgeting, they're doing engineering design, they're doing research management, they're researching products or materials research, and then they're learning about inertia and what impacts inertia has on an astronaut that might be landing.
Budgeting is so important, especially when you finally have to grow up.
Right.
And it's something that I think it's harder to budget today than previously.
I would agree. Yeah. Because
especially coming out of the pandemic, the craziness of prices, and definitely harder today. But I think it's super necessary.
Yeah. A lot of teachers. Yeah, a lot of teachers are really thankful that we have that component of it, and that's one activity that has almost every aspect of STEM. There's science, technology, engineering, and math in that whole activity, and the budgeting piece of that is hugely important.
You're selling me on this program right now because budget. I can't stress that enough. Budgeting is crazy, and I think about it all the time, especially with our tribal kids. So our tribal kids, for people that aren't aware of and that may have know this, we do get a per capita payment when we turn 18, and other tribes have changed it where you have to get your high school diploma for a certain chunk, and then you have to get a college degree for a certain chunk, and then if you don't do that, the rest of it at like 25. And watching people not have the budgeting skills and what that can do and how fast somebody can spend money, and just like anyone else, any other person, you give them a nice chunk of change and they have needs and they have some wants, and $10,000 is easy to spend today. I mean, I could spend $10,000 in probably an hour.
Yeah,
but it's crazy. And especially looking at the prices of cars coming out of during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I was just, I don't know if you bought a new car around the pandemic or not.
I did not.
So one of the crazy things that happened during the pandemic, and give it to the people that did it and thought about it and, you know, had the business mindset to do this. I didn't have the business mindset to do it. I was too worried about if I would be able to get another car. I bought my truck at the end of 2019, July, August, September 2019. And within a couple of weeks, I got a call for the dealership to buy the car back.
Oh, wow.
And then after the pandemic hit, I had got another call from the dealership to buy the car back, because what is it? I was just talking about this the other day. I think it had to do with the chips.
Oh, okay.
The computer chips in the cars weren't being manufactured, so they had a shortage of vehicles that could actually be driven, and so that's why they were calling people to get their cars back and resell it for more. But you were still making like 10 grand per car.
Wow.
Something like that, some crazy thing. And I heard about it throughout the pandemic that people are selling their vehicles back, and I probably should have done that like 2-3 times and got a free vehicle out of it. But you take a look at that, like, man, where we're at systematically, just with vehicles, you really do have to have that budgeting skill nowadays.
Yeah.
To be able to take care of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
No, so you guys are doing great work, and I appreciate it, and I really do hope that the tribal programs in the local school districts keep coming back to you guys. For the rover project, besides getting a rover on the moon or Mars or any other planet, what do the kids learn by doing that?
They're learning problem solving skills. So they're having to navigate their rover to do certain challenges. And then the coding piece. Coding is something that is becoming more prominent in a lot of different careers and a lot of different fields. So it gives them just a baseline experience for learning how to code.
What kind of coding?
It's just block coding.
Block coding.
Yeah. So we use a Lego rover called Spike. It's one of their newest Lego systems. So it's still block coding, but it's very user friendly.
I thought you guys were teaching them Python.
No Python. Yeah. And they also do another big thing that you're mentioning that since the pandemic, some things that have changed. One of the biggest things that came out of the pandemic from an education perspective is how many students struggle with teamwork or working with other classmates. And that's something that STARBASE is predicated on. Like everything that they do, with a couple of minor exceptions, is in a team or a pair setting. So
how do you guys, coming out of the pandemic, how did you have to rethink of how you get kids to collaborate again?
Yeah, it's definitely been a process. It's, where we are now is very different than where we were 2 years ago when we started serving students again after the pandemic. And it's just been a challenge. It's really been a slow journey back to where we are, where kids are getting used to working in teams again. And again, kind of going back to that survey that they take, a lot of students have said they've learned how important it is to work in a team, or that they can work in a team, because I don't think a lot of them have been required to work in teams. And I think this just showed them what they're capable of, and sometimes how, when you have other people's ideas and help, how you can actually do better. Like that saying, when, we all do better when we all do better.
Oh, I gotta remember that one. No, I see it, even especially with my own kids. My daughter, her and my other two, I have 4 kids, and they were going down to visit their family in the cities for Thanksgiving, but their Thanksgiving was happening on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
And they were only staying for dinner, or maybe for the night. But then they were having another Thanksgiving down there on Thanksgiving, but they weren't going to that one because my daughter didn't want to be around that many people.
Yeah.
And she's like that. And all my kids can get like that, especially coming out of the pandemic. It's weird seeing it, because I was never one of them kids.
Right.
And so it's been hard to adjust. Well, give her the support that she needs. And, it's all right. You don't have to do that. The grandparents really did a good job at saying, hey, we'll just have a smaller dinner on Wednesday and then you guys take off, which was really nice of them, that I thought.
Yeah.
And then thinking about me personally, like I like the socialness of everything. I like doing networking events. I like going to ceremonies. I like meeting a bunch of people and doing big events all the time. It's just something that I like to do. So having a kid that is completely opposite has been a shift.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And we have, students of, every personality, every ability level, whether they say they want to come to Starbase or they don't, we're not, there's every class comes together and with their teacher. And I have 6 educators who are all licensed teachers in the state of Minnesota, and they're so good at what they do that they can meet every student regardless of where they're at on an ability level. So, we're going to support the kids who need the support, and then we're going to challenge the kids who might think this is too easy. So there's never an opt-out for Starbase. It's, we don't just take certain students or select certain students. It's everyone deserves a chance to show what they're capable of, and everyone deserves a chance to experience Starbase and find where their talents might be. So,
yeah. And it goes back to that story of taking me 2 times to fail.
Yeah.
To get an A+. And you just never know which kid's going to be, might be the kid that actually gets us there to Mars.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That's another piece that is really a core part of our program is the focus that we put on students doing research and investigation on STEM careers. We like to highlight careers that are unique. If you think of STEM, you think, oh, engineer. Well, there's probably dozens and dozens of kinds of engineers. So we try to highlight some of the unknown ones. But we also want to show students that there's a STEM career on the spectrum, regardless of, what level of education you want to go through. So if you don't want to go to college, there are really lucrative careers in trades and shorter degree programs or certifications, so that STEM is accessible, and we want students to realize that STEM is accessible in their community. And then we highlight careers that are in our region and our community. So that's one of the things that I had talked about before, that getting engaged and involved with some of our tribal communities to feature careers that individuals have in STEM that are important culturally or that are very prominent in those areas. So we want to show students that STEM is where they are. STEM is in their communities. There's people who are, live and work in their communities that have these jobs. And how do we show students what are available and what opportunities that they might have? So that's a big part of the week that they have at Starbase too.
So we met at the Apex meeting, and one of the people that walked up to me, introduced themselves to me. They had just got a contract with Fond du Lac.
Okay.
And specifically towards engineering.
Awesome.
And we have the Terra Ordinance, Tribal Employment something officer. I always forget the acronyms, I swear. But they said they were having trouble finding an engineer that could be hired for the work.
Okay.
Because of the ordinance. And I said, I started thinking I couldn't think of any engineers. Anyone that would, once you become an engineer and you're usually working somewhere, you have the good experience and the experience to be working outside of our community or working within our community full time, not necessarily looking for part-time work. So the need is there, especially coming into tribal communities, especially some of these really specific jobs that people get, if it's engineering, if it's trades, as you're saying, and even being an educator, hearing about when I joined education, I started at a college institute, the College of Saint Scholastica, and even then they were started saying that there's going to be a trade shortage of people being in trades, and you hear about it. And I watch reels all the time on Facebook. It's one of the things that I like. If I go on Facebook, that's probably the only thing that I do, because I can't scroll. I don't like scrolling, and I don't like getting into too many people's business, because people put their business on Facebook, and I don't think it's the right place to do that. But one of the reels had said, you're going to start seeing influencers saying that they're becoming plumbers. You're going to start seeing people saying the next thing is to become a plumber. Next thing to do is to become an electrician, and it's going to be what's cool. And maybe a week goes by, and I'm not lying. An influencer was making videos about them being a plumber.
Oh, wow.
And this guy had made this video like 2-3 years ago, and he said, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to stop seeing that, it's not just partying. It's not just doing, having a ton of fun, buying, becoming an influencer, buying your dream house, getting a Lamborghini, and whatever. My son has this idea that he's going to get a Lamborghini when he's, and I'm hoping he does. I keep telling him, yeah, that's a good goal to have.
Yep, work hard.
If you want a Lamborghini, you're going to have to work hard and get it, and I hope you do.
Yeah.
But seeing that this guy was actually right, like within an entire week, somebody was posting videos about being a plumber and making it look cool and cutting all these angles on a pipe for a sink. And I was like, man, I wish I knew how to do some of this stuff, so I didn't have to pay that every time I need something done plumbing wise.
Yeah, and there's STEM, there's math and science and technology.
They were cutting angles, everything.
Yeah, and it's all amazing. Of that. So that's why we're trying to do a lot of promotion of those trades, because they are in desperate need right now. So
no, you're doing a whole bunch of good work, and for people that want to reach out, how do they get a hold of you? Or STARBASE.
Yeah, they can go to our website. We have a website, so it's www.starbasemn.org, and you click on the Duluth site, because there's 2 in Minnesota, one's in St. Paul and one's here. And then there's a contact us section where they can email or call me directly, and I'd be happy to chat with people. We also have a Facebook and Instagram page, so just search for STARBASE Duluth. And we always post about when we're doing outreach activities or when we're out in the community, or about the students that we've got coming. And we also try to connect people with our social media to other STEM organizations. So if a kid is just really, really interested in STEM, and parents or guardians are looking for opportunities, we try to connect people with those too, because there are so many people in all of our communities doing really awesome STEM education work. So,
and I know how it is working in education. And I don't want to, unveil anything that might be in the works, but is there any crazy projects in the work that you guys are thinking, hey, maybe we should try this?
One of the things that we're going to start to do is we're going to start to reach out to the middle school levels. We were calling it STARBASE 2.0. I don't know what it ultimately will be or become, but we want to be able to continue, something to the next level for some students. We won't be able to do it for our 2,800 students that we serve each year, but looking for schools, middle schools that we could potentially partner with to, deepen those relationships and continue that love of STEM. So that's kind of what's next on the horizon for us, and then ultimately high school too.
So for that big of a project to add middle school, what does that entail besides just knowing the budget, knowing what you actually have to pay for this thing? But does this require adding more staff? Does it require more space?
Potentially. Most of our the way the template is for a 2.0 program is we actually go to the schools.
Okay.
So we just would partner with the schools. We would, look for a classroom space and kind of do it in an after school format or club format. And then my staff would work with, collaborators at the school, and curriculum would be another component of it, that we'd have to build a middle school curriculum because we want it to be entirely different and more age appropriate for the kids at the higher levels. And then bringing in more people with STEM careers. That's, again, we want to try to really drive that home and connect students with those people in the real world so that they can actually meet them and work with them, talk with them, so that they learn a little bit more about what's out there.
For the STARBASE employees that you have, are they farmer educators? Are they engineers? What are their backgrounds?
Yeah, they're all educators, so they're all licensed teachers, and a lot of them have either certifications or areas of expertise in the STEM fields. So maybe they are a middle school science teacher, former middle school science teacher, or they are an environmental educator. So we bring those people, and we kind of look for those people that have that affinity, or they have a love for STEM. But they're all current teachers. They all have to maintain their licenses, and so that's why they're all really good at the classroom management component of it, as well as they're very passionate about learning and researching as much as they can about STEM topics, whether that's about the Mars rovers or what NASA might be doing or what engineering firms are in our region, so that they can be better educated themselves to give info to their students.
And I appreciate that. My nephew, he's a college student. He's thinking of going into aviation. And I don't know, I think it's something about flying that makes people, especially the people that love flying. I love flying. I think it's the best way to travel. I don't know if there's any other way that's better than that. Is there going to be anything with drones or aviation eventually with what you guys are doing?
With STARBASE, yeah, actually a lot of other STARBASE locations across the country I know are doing work with drones. And actually in the middle school setting, that's probably a little bit easier because drones aren't allowed on military installations. So
yeah, you guys are over there.
Yeah. So we're on the Air Force Base. So, but yeah, drones are huge right now, obviously. And at the middle school level, I think that would be a great time to explore that with that level of student.
And as we wrap this up, is there anything else that we may not have covered that you want to mention?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, we really touched on everything. I guess the only thing I would say is if anyone listening is interested in our summer camp program, to reach out to me. We have slots. They fill up really quickly. We open up registration in March, but the camp is free, just like our school year program is free.
Is this per student? Per student or per school?
As far as the
summer camp, if you want to sign up for it?
That is individually.
Okay.
We do hold aside some slots though for youth organizations or school groups. So we definitely are willing to work with, because actually Fond du Lac Ojibwe School did come during the summer one year when they couldn't come during the pandemic. They brought their whole class the following year, which was great. So we were still able to offer the program to those kids. So either individually or as a group. So people are welcome to reach out to me and get more information, get on our mailing list so they can learn more about when registration opens.
I have a good closing question for that.
Sure.
To add to that. So you said 500 miles.
Mm-hmm.
That's
our service area.
Area.
Mm-hmm.
Does that go into Wisconsin?
We don't serve students from Wisconsin right now. It is just within the state of Minnesota, just based on how our program is structured and the fact that we're kind of at capacity right now with the students in or around the Minnesota community.
So how far south does it go?
All the way down to Hinckley.
All the way down to Hinckley. How far west from there?
Let's see. I'm trying to think as far how far west we go.
Do you guys go towards Brainerd?
No, we haven't gone as far as Brainerd yet. Yeah.
Okay. So it must be between Hinckley and Mille Lacs and then north.
Yeah, because we don't.
How far north?
Rapids. International Falls is the furthest north we have.
Okay.
They come down and spend a week with us. And then basically everything in between, like Iron Range, essentially.
Okay.
So Grand Rapids, we do have Grand Rapids right now. So
nobody from Oklahoma.
no Oklahoma.
No, what's funny is the reason why I bring up Oklahoma is Joel and I, my co-host, we went down to Oklahoma to do a roll call for Reservation Dogs. It's a television series on Hulu.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And the last season was last year, but we didn't get our call.
Aw.
And when we were going through the line, Joel had mentioned to one of the people that work on Reservation Dogs that were on a podcast, and they said, which podcast? We listened to a lot of them, especially almost all the native ones. He said, Middle of the Res Road. And he said, yeah, we've heard of you.
Wow.
And so we have people, it's weird. It's weird being on a podcast. It's weird being, knowing that people know you that you don't know.
Right. Yeah.
It's strange. So the joke was about being in Oklahoma and actually people listening from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
Yeah, the great thing is that there's STARBASEs all over the country. I can't recall right now if we've got any in Oklahoma, but there's upwards of 80 to 90 locations. And then they also have locations in Guam and Puerto Rico too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You guys are doing good work. And,
thank you.
And if you ever want to come back on the podcast, tell us some of the new projects, especially we would love to hear about STARBASE 2.0.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if you get it going. And because I truly believe in, being an integration specialist. One of the last things that we were doing was pushing into the classrooms. And that's what you guys are essentially doing, pushing into schools.
Yeah.
And meeting students where they're at.
100%.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you.
I appreciate you so much for coming on.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and talk about STARBASE. It's my favorite thing.
All right. You have a good day.
Thanks. You too.
Take care.